I am Valérie Djoumessi and I am a French entrepreneur. I'm based in Paris. My parents are Cameroonian. I'm the artistic director of our family business, which is called Upgrade Agency. And I am also a consultant in image and a creativity coach. I co-host a podcast with my three sisters and my mother. It is called 𝐏𝐿𝐿𝐿𝐿 podcast. I have always been fascinated by the human potential. For me, it is so important to, as a woman and as a man, to be able to realize our dreams. So welcome in mine. It's Amulet podcast. It's a 10-minute bubble of courage in French and in English, where I will be talking everything vulnerability, authenticity, and freedom. So make yourself comfortable. Welcome in my dream. This is Amulet podcast. I am so glad to welcome you in my new podcast, which is called Amulet Podcast. I will be your host. I am Valérie Djoumessi. I'm a French-based entrepreneur. I live in Paris, and I am from a Cameroonian family. I've been an entrepreneur for 6 years, I think. So it is called Upgrade Agency, and we create events in France, in Paris, everywhere someone asks us to create something. I work with my sisters and my mother. So those four people are also my co-host in a podcast, which is called 𝐏𝐿𝐿𝐿𝐿 podcast. So for me, 𝐏𝐿𝐿𝐿𝐿 podcast was the first step into the podcast world. I have always wanted to host a podcast, but I was so afraid to do it on my own. And I thought it was a great idea to create that with my sisters and my mother. And so it's an amazing journey because we are learning so much from each other. And also I think we are inspiring some families and sororities to be able to have real conversations, because most of the time, and especially in our African cultures, we don't talk to each other. Like, we are family and we love each other, that's a given, but it's like we don't manage to talk about subject that matters. And for us to do that is a great way to, have a kind of therapeutical conversation and to share it with the world, because, well, that's being authentic and vulnerable. As you can tell, I am not an English speaking, it's not my mother tongue, let's say. I've always loved to speak in English because I thought that words made more sense, if it makes sense. But now I realize it's just because I've been fed to like the American culture, watching all the shows and looking up to all the artists. So now English is like I'm thinking in English. But yeah, if you wonder where this accent come from, wow, that's a French one. So in 2019, I turned 30, so the big 3. And I was like, okay, now you're this grown-up woman. You can decide whatever you want to be, whoever you want to be. You can decide your direction. So what do you want to do? What is your bucket list? And at the top of that bucket list was the podcast, so the 𝐏𝐿𝐿𝐿 podcast. And also the idea after was to create something that was really my own, which was called Amulette. That's basically one of my dreams. So you are in this dream right now, and I am so happy. I feel like right now I am less afraid to do the things that I really want to do. I feel like I am more able to go for my dreams, because with confidence and my self-esteem being stronger and stronger, I can see myself do stuff and I can see how it can impact people. That is why I wanted to do this first episode, because don't underestimate the power of the dreams that you're gonna realize, because it's great for you, but it's also sometimes a great example for people who are maybe afraid or who are not daring to do what they want to do. And I really, really believe that we would have a better world if we were all realizing our dreams. I know it really sounds like a beauty pageant, but I really meant it. So Amulet podcast, it will be 10-ish minutes every week in French and in English. And the idea here is to, share with you a lot of intimate moments. So I'm not going to be all up in my business, but I mean, maybe yes. The idea is to be able to share stuff that I've already digested, stuff that I'm, proud of, because maybe before I was afraid, I was ashamed sometimes, because I've wrote some of the episode and it's going to be intense. And the idea is to be like, we just are you and me. You and me. I am in your ears. It's not sex. It's not sex. It's not a podcast about sex. Maybe we're going to talk about sex, but it's not around that. But I am just here and I am creating an intimate moment with you, so maybe you can think about stuff that relates and have the courage and the faith that things are going to get better. It's also really helpful for me to speak about it because I think it's a process to heal. Sometimes you feel like you are in a dark place and you don't know where to go and you don't know where is up or where is down. You don't know if you should turn right or left. You feel lost, you feel alone, you feel insecure, you feel like nothing is going the way you want. Well, maybe you can listen to Amulet because I really want to have a good vibes and good energies in this podcast. It's just a great leap of faith for me to believe that maybe I can help you in those moments in some way. Like a lot of people helped me with their podcast and books. They became mentors to me, even though they don't know that I exist. So Amulet Podcast is basically a safe space where I'll be able to talk my truth, and hopefully it will be a great way for you to come closer to yours. That's what I hope, actually. So feel free to let me know what you think. Feel free to comment, to share with people you love. I am on Instagram, Valérie Djoumessi, and for the podcast, it's Amulette, AMULETTE_podcasts. And thank you for your time and your attention because it's one of the most valuable things that you have. So yeah. This is my dream. Let's realize our dream in 2020. So what is yours? In those moments, in some way, like a lot of people helped me with their podcast and books. They became mentors to me, even though they don't know that I exist. They are here with their dreams that they managed to... Putain, je raconte de la MERDE. Après, il s'est coupé mon truc là, t'es mignon. Ok, stop. Désolée Alexia. Tu vas couper une partie, je pense. So Amulet